Well, now that we've got all of these elements in place and all of our divs are set up, we've got our wrapper div on the index page that's centering our design, and we've tested it a couple of times inside of different browsers and it seems to work out just great. One thing that we can probably do is to perhaps take this opportunity to talk about how things are going to be not only centered on the page, but the fact that you can add a background image and still have a different background color. And that's one thing that I want to talk to you about at this point. So let's just move on over to Photoshop for a second, and I did that on the Macintosh by pressing Command Tab. If you're working on a PC, Alt Tab will do the same thing. And as you can see here, we're back with our Type 3 slice layout. But one thing that I do want to make mention of is the fact that we had our slice up here with the headline graphics, and as you might remember, we did not use the entire 900 pixel canvas. However, what I want to do now is to actually go about creating a slice that we're going to use as a tiling background image. So let's take a look. We'll grab the slice tool. Now, I don't want to necessarily interfere with the slice that's up here at the top, so we can still go down to the bottom of our design and create a slice here as well. Now you might be asking, well, how big is this slice supposed to be and what are we going to do with it? Notice I'm going to open up my canvas just a little bit more. Technically speaking, 1 pixel will be more than enough. I mean, it's okay if you do 2 or even 10 or 20 pixels. It's really not that big of a deal. The issue is, however, that technically speaking, as I mentioned, we really do only need 1 pixel. So I'm just going to zoom in on this, and the only reason I'm going to zoom in at this moment is to choose the slice tool, double click this, and rename this particular slice. I don't like this long name. It doesn't tell me anything about the graphic that I'm using, so we're going to rename this. What are we going to rename it? Well, every background image that I use in any of my web designs, and in this particular one, and remember we're just doing a very simple one here, so we don't have very many background images in particular, but nevertheless I'm just going to call it BG underscore body. If in future, well, let me get rid of that plus sign, because remember, even though this is an image, it still adheres to HTML naming conventions, which means no special characters. That plus sign would not do any good for anybody. So, BG body. I just want to take the second to mention that if I did have a much more complex design, we would more than likely be using a lot of different background images. But this is just the BG, or the background, for the body. So that's what I'm going to name this. And as you can see, it's pretty easy because there's really only one color that's here. So if you remember our rules from before, joint photographic expert group is a great thing to do when you're saving photographs. So JPEG photographs, and anything that has simple amounts of colors, easy rule of thumb, try it as a GIF first and you're probably going to get best results. So let's go to File, Save for Web and Devices. I'm going to press spacebar and just move my canvas so that I can select this and only this slice down at the bottom. You'll notice by default here it's saying, oh yeah, let me save you a JPEG, but I don't want a low quality JPEG. I mean, it's fine. It's not really going to cause that much problem. But what I do want to see instead is GIF. And looking over here at GIF, you'll notice that even if the GIF is suggesting 256 colors, the maximum number of colors in the color table, notice the color table will only produce 2 colors. And even though this default one here is not actually giving us any color, we don't have an anti-alias on this, so it's really just the one color. And you'll notice even that low quality JPEG of 10% did not give us the results that this GIF does. 149 bytes, it's really nothing in terms of download speed. So I'm going to press on save and make sure we're saving to the right spot, and you'll notice on my desktop there's the type root folder. Do I have to enter into the images folder? Actually, not really, because it's going to by default save to an images folder. So let it find this one, because if you're inside that images folder then and you don't make any changes here, it will just produce an images folder inside of your images folder, which is not really a good thing. So the slices, I will say not all or even all the user slices. I just need the selected slice in this case. So I'll click Save, and now we can return. Well, actually, we'll give it a second. There you go. So here we are back in Photoshop, and we'll come back. There's some other things that we're going to be doing with this. You can take the opportunity to save your file at this moment if you wish, and I'm going to go to Dreamweaver. So here we are in Dreamweaver, and let's see a couple of things. Well, first of all, I'm going to switch back to Photoshop. Before I do anything else, in my swatches palette, I'm going to activate the darkest color that I happen to have here, and I'm going to click once on my color picker and copy this color, Command C or Control C on a PC. So switch back to Dreamweaver. Now let's try a couple of different things. For example, I'm going to, here we are in our site window. Let's just take a look inside here, and you'll look, BG body. It's saved properly in the images folder. That's fantastic. Now in my CSS styles, here's the body definition. I'm going to ask you to edit this body definition, and you'll see right now that it has that light gray default color. Well, check this out. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to paste in the dark color, and we can apply that and say, oh no, look what happened to our design. It looks terrible because everything that was showing through from the body was coloring this background. Not to worry, because as you remember, we do have a background image, which I will find now in the images folder under bgbody.gif. We'll choose it. Now, if I were to repeat this on both the X and the Y, what would end up happening is, as you can see here, everything is repeating and it makes the whole body the same color. Not exactly what we want. Rather, we want to repeat this thing only on the Y, meaning only on the Y axis, right? So not horizontal, but rather vertical. And if we apply that, what you can see, and you might have a little bit of difficulty here because I'm using a 1024 screen, is the fact that there is this little background color here, but there is a tiling background. Now, why is it only showing the background color here, the dark color? It's because we have not centered this background image, and that's something else that you can do with background images, is define their position. So here, under the background position for the X, I'm going to say center it. So horizontally, always have it in the middle of our design. Background position Y, well, we'll give it the default. It starts top down. Now if we apply this, you can see that not only on this side is there the background color, but you'll also see it on this side. So let's click OK and see what we've done so far. If I preview this in Firefox, it's going to ask me to save the file and take a look. We've got a little bit of color over here, a little bit of color over there, and this tiling background image is creating sort of the illusion that we have our wrapped images inside of this sort of container. And as you can see, if I move around the actual browser window, not only does the wrapper maintain its centered abilities and capabilities, but we also now can notice that the object is centering the background image as well. So that's really nice. Now we've got something that works a little bit more in keeping with what we wanted to see. You could test it out in all your other browsers too. It's usually a good idea to do so. And what we see in Safari is pretty much the same thing that we saw in Firefox. So that takes care of our tiling background image. What we're now going to do in the next video is to make the links that are on these buttons actually link to individual pages, and we'll go about preparing those pages inside of Photoshop in just a second when we return.